Prince Harry and wife Meghan Markle are off to Africa later this month, to Nigeria this time, and their critics are really saying, hang on here, this is being made to look like a royal tour, exploiting their royal status when they don't actually do the real work. Joining me from London is Patrick Christys, star presenter at GB News. Patrick, always great to talk to you. Hey, what are they doing and why is it a problem?
Well, Meghan has done an ancestry test and found out that she's 43% Nigerian. So she's decided to go and embrace her roots, apparently, Andrew. It's a shame she didn't find out she was 43% Antarctic, because then she'd have to go there, wouldn't she? But they say this is for the Invictus Games and for cultural experiences. But I think this is all about one thing. It's content for Netflix, okay? It could even be argued by some that they might be using impoverished Africans for their own personal gain. You compare and contrast the way that the king is going about his business. He's surviving cancer. He's been to a cancer treatment centre. They've also got a lot of land in this country, the royal family. They're talking about using that for affordable housing. William's doing a lot with food waste. But really now Harry and Meghan are going around Nigeria. I think also it's about one-upping William and Kate. William and Kate had quite a disastrous tour of the Caribbean a few years back. I wonder if they are trying to essentially create a different ambiance here. When they left the royal family, they made a big virtue out of the fact that because of Meghan's cultural heritage, she would have been a great ambassador to the Commonwealth. And I think that now they are dining out on that former royal link to go and do that.
Well, speaking of Africa, Patrick, your government has tried for months, probably years, I think now, to get a scheme that's like ours, to deter illegal immigrants, boat people, by sending them to another country. You, or your government, wants to send them to Rwanda in Africa, which is actually a pretty place when I visited it. Tragic history, pretty place. Finally, one person has now been sent. Are you celebrating? Is that party streamers I see behind you?
Well, not quite, because that person didn't come across on a small boat and we did have to pay him £3,000 to go there. But there are actually some clauses for celebration, okay? So Rwanda is a deterrent. We are now interviewing people when they land on these small boats in Britain and breaking the news to them that they could be sent to Rwanda, and quite a lot of them want to turn the boat around and go back the other way. So that's a good sign. The other aspects of it is the island, the Republic of Ireland, which has a land border with the UK, of course, has messed around with us. And now they're in the finding out stage, because they offered illegal immigrants a better deal. They offered them more money and the opportunity to go and work. They also declared the United Kingdom an unsafe country, so they couldn't return people. Well, what's happened? Their population has grown by about 40% in the last 20 years. More rapidly, more recently, communities have been destroyed. There's a huge welfare state. They've got tent cities now of illegal migrants in Dublin and mass outrage. And now they want to send people back to us. But they're saying the influx is because of Rwanda, which does imply it's working. Just quickly as well, Andrew, we've got a very similar situation in this country to the one that you guys had, which is where our Labour Party is saying we would get rid of this Rwanda scheme. But now the noises are, actually, if it works, which it could, then they wouldn't reverse it. I think you guys have heard that before, haven't you?
Yeah, we sure have. We sure have. We have a Prime Minister who said he couldn't possibly turn the boats back. We put the people on unsinkable boats and sent them back. And now apparently he can. How about that? Hallelujah. Hey, Patrick, earlier in the show I mentioned Greens deputy leader here, Mariam Faruqi, saying, posting, she couldn't mourn the Queen's death because here's someone who built a country, an empire or whatever, on the back of slavery and all that kind of thing. Well, I've interviewed a historian of colonialism who's written a fascinating book arguing that it did not make the West rich at all. It was a net cost. And activists claiming, though, their wealth, the West built their wealth by robbing them, are wrong. Now, Britain's Institute of Economic Affairs has said in a new study, slavery did not make the West rich either, just made a few wealthy families rich. Tell us about it and why it matters.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, Britain may have actually been made poorer by the slave trade. The transatlantic slave trade was no more important to the British economy than brewing or sheep farming. We don't usually hear that brewing financed the Industrial Revolution, do we? Or that sheep farming is responsible for all the evils in the world. About 100 families in Britain were made wealthier by the slave trade. Hilariously, one of their descendants now works for the BBC, so she can pay reparations if she wants, but the rest of us, I don't think, should have to. It's important for two things here. Britain was not built off the back of slavery, and we need to stop that idea. The other thing is that we need to stop telling children that in schools. So we need to stop being ashamed of our nationality and our national history. That's important. But also, you've got very woke religious leaders like Archbishop Justin Welby from the Church of England talking about £1 billion worth of reparations. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because this report, as it says, people who are actually responsible for the slave trade at source probably benefited much better than the average Brit. So you have to take that into consideration. No taxpayers' money for reparations, Andrew.
Yeah, slavery is appalling, but I have to say, why don't they go after the African tribes that helped the slave trades by capturing the slaves that they traded in the first place? So that'd be interesting. A few wealthy Nigerian families might be quaking in their boots at that. And so they should.
I mean, maybe Meghan can meet them. Maybe Meghan can meet them.
Well, I tell you what, that is the one hitch that could come out of that tour. They could do the big, we should be sorry for slavery and colonialism, reparations now, when they know they don't have to bear any responsibility for paying it. You wait. I bet you that's the trick in this particular tour.
Yeah, quite possibly. Well, all eyes will be on Nigeria for Meghan and Harry, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely right. Patrick Christys, always great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.